Yes.
Does anybody know what that is?
Skype.
Skype. How many of you use Skype already? How many use it personally? Professionally? For those who use it professionally, how are you using it? Really curious to know. How are you using it?
I was on a statewide board of a state organization, and we met that way. We were just using audio, so I know you
Okay.
can use video too.
Right.
We use it for out-of-town employers to interview students here at the university.
Okay. You're using it over here too, correct?
Yeah, we used it for, instead of phone conference calls for interviews, for face-to-face calls.
Okay. So I'm hearing lots of
interviews.
interviewing, those types of things. There are folks that are actually using this on college campuses for academic advising purposes. Skype it's a software application. You download it from the web, and it lets you make calls over the internet. I mean, that really is what it is. So you can make a video call. You don't have to have the video. So if you woke up and you're not really thrilled about how you're looking at that point in time, you can still just do an audio call over the internet with someone. My sister went to Africa for like 3 months on a trip with her husband, and that's how she called home. They would go to an internet cafe that had that capability, and even though we couldn't see her, we could hear her. And that was the best way to make those types of calls at that point in time. Skype also now, it's got additional features, like there's an instant messaging function on it as well. So if you're having a conversation, you can also send a little note back and forth. So if maybe there's more than one person on the call, you can just send the note to one person. I don't know what you would want to say, hopefully nothing horrible. There's a file transfer, so you can actually send files back and forth while you're online. And then video conferencing. It now has group calling. This is a recent addition by Skype, so that you can have several people on at once. So the meetings that used to be not audio, you could actually see everybody up there. It's a little bit interesting. There was a free function called TalkBox, which I think may still be out there, that allows you to do that. And Stacy has a fabulous phrase that she uses to describe it.
I call it a goat rodeo. It's just really hard to manage a group of people who are all on delays and trying to talk and webcam. So if it's a small group, it's much more manageable. Like I do a Skype video call every Monday night with 2 other people. That's totally manageable. But I tried to do like the TalkBox when it was still around with up to 12 people. People were talking over each other. You had no idea what was going on.
Right. So, there are limitations to some of this type of media, but with Skype, it does allow you to have these types of smaller, maybe intimate conversations, and you don't have to be in the same place, same city, and even the same country. So for higher education purposes, there's a lot of power behind this, whether it's through meetings, like we talked about, or search committees, or advising, or connecting with student leaders maybe over the summer when they're not necessarily here and on campus, so that you don't lose some of the momentum that you started just before they left. I mean, there are lots of applications for this that could occur. And then here's one. Love this one. Does anybody know what that is?
So it's like a UPC code.
It's called a QR code, right? Anybody know what these are used for? You do, I'm sure.
Yeah, you can take an application off your iPhone or Android or whatever and scan it, and it provides you with documents, files, information on whatever that thing is.
Yeah, link to a website, link to an ad, link to a coupon, whatever. Yeah.
Just to let everyone know, the Office of Admissions just created a new map with this kind of information on there.
Yep.
It's absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. You can take a tour from home.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of power in this. We just had a career fair on campus at SAU Carbondale, and the Career Center on all of their advertisements put a QR code up there. And so students would open up the Daily Egyptian, which is our newspaper, get their smartphones out, take a picture of it, and on their smartphone it pulled up every employer that was going to be there, who the representative was, and then all the information about the career fair. So they didn't have to go search for this stuff or even pull their computer up and log online. They had it right in front of them. I see some power and some functionality in that for orientation programs. Why am I handing you the schedule? If you've got a smartphone, you can just take a picture of it on a sign that we have there, and now you have it all in front of you, which might be a nice bridge between that versus creating an entire application, which is a completely different animal.
Just an academic use that I've seen of it, presenting a poster session at a conference.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I've seen quite a few of these of those.
That's a great idea. You just link over if they have one of the full posters on one, it's a great idea.
If you work in activities or programming and put these on your posters, you can actually have a QR code that links to a calendar event.
Mhm.
So they take a picture of it and it automatically puts it into their calendar. So when they want to go to that event, it's already in there.
It's already there.
They'll get the reminder 15 minutes before.
I have a question, because I know nothing about this. So what you do is you go online and you create this code and it gives you that, and then you can use it as like a PDF or a picture,
Mhm.
and you can put it on your, okay.
Exactly. And Google has actually taken it one step further with a program called Google Goggles, which is hysterical. Stacy will get into that in a minute, but it doesn't just involve taking a picture of this. You can take a picture of almost anything. So, and with that, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Oliver.
Okay.
Since we're not talking
This
about
is
Google.
The famous G for Google. So we're actually going to talk about quite a few things having to do with Google. Someone already mentioned Google Docs. Google Docs is a great way to share documents with other people, allow people either to edit them, or you can even just share them with them if you don't want them to edit them. I do this with my RA staff a lot if I want them to have access to information, or to all be able to contribute to something outside of a staff meeting, can send them a link. It's hosted what they call in the cloud, so it's not based on anyone's computer, it's saved out there by the little fairies that run Julie's computer. And they all have access to that, and you can see who's updating it, you can also see who's viewing it. At the same time as you, it'll pop up a chat window if there's more than one person in there, so you can talk to other people while they're in there, ask them like, what are you editing, why are you in here? Sometimes I get nervous when they're in documents, so it's really helpful. You can upload like a Microsoft Word document right into Google Docs. You can also create a document in Google Docs. So there's some functionality there. There's also a spreadsheet that's similar to Excel. One of their newer features that's really cool is Google Forms. So if you're creating a survey or if you're hosting an event and you need to collect registration information, you can create a form that looks just as good as any website where you enter personal information, and it will automatically aggregate that information into a spreadsheet for you. I've done that for conferences and then shared the spreadsheet on the backside with the other people who need to see the registration information. Something to be careful of, though, is that their privacy restrictions are clearly not as significant as like Amazon or someplace where you're making payment. So it's good for informal survey taking. It's good for things like, are you coming to this event? I have my RAs submit their weekly reports every Monday on a Google form, and then I clear it out as soon as I read them, because sometimes that information just doesn't need to be accessible. But it's like they choose their name from a drop-down menu. This is pretty foolproof for them. Google Reader, we talked a little bit about RSS feeds already. Google Reader is very similar. It has, for some people, it's easier to use because it's embedded into their Google. It can sync with your Gmail. You just add a website that you want to follow, and it will continuously tell you when those things are updated. Julie mentioned blogs. I talked a little bit about running a search for headlines, or even just Indiana University South Bend, so I can see where we're being mentioned. Google Reader is really functional in terms of having the diversity to do a Google search and having it running constantly, or getting your Perez Hilton updates. I support that. Sometimes it's both. IU South Bend was recently on Perez Hilton. That was a big day for my Google Reader. Google Alerts, are any of you using those? How are you using Google Alerts?
It's been a while. I used it to follow some companies.
Okay.
So,
Google Alerts is similar to what I'm doing with the Google Reader by searching for IU South Bend. You can set it up to constantly search for something and then email you all of the places where it's mentioned. So I run a Google Alert on myself every day. I just want to know, am I being mentioned? And if that sounds so narcissistic. And if I am, is it in a positive way? And some of that is because I do blog. And yesterday I found out that a professional organization had yanked one of my blog posts, posted it to their website without my permission because I run that Google Reader. So I was able to say to them, I would have preferred if you asked permission, but since you didn't, at least spell my name right. So there's some functionality there if you're worried about your branding or yourself. It can also be something that you do with your office name to see where you're being mentioned, because it will search all of Google every day at a predetermined time and kick back to you what's new. There's a Stacey Oliver who happened to star in a very bad movie called The Sorority Girls Revenge. So I also get a lot of updates about what she's doing with her life. I wish her nothing but the best. We lead very different lives. So, Google Wave, did any of you use that during its very short life?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
So it's gone.
It had so much potential, and
Yeah.
they really just stopped investing resources in it. Google Wave is still around, but it's no longer supported. The idea was that it was really like a common meeting ground for people. You could share documents and information. You could actually watch as people typed into it, which was kind of cool. But it integrated things like documents and videos and social media all into one place. And Google just never really found the numbers there to continue supporting it. It had some great uses in student affairs. It was kind of like an ongoing wiki for a lot of us, where people would share content and information, and you could always go see it being updated. But like I said, they're no longer supporting that. The Google search engine, you've probably all used that. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Google Goggles, we just mentioned. Not only can you scan a QR code with Google Goggles, you can scan a picture of anything. If I took a picture of the Diet Coke bottle and asked it to start searching for it, it would start giving me web results about Diet Coke. It recognizes logos, it recognizes pictures. It will try and determine what an object is if you take a picture of a remote control,
Yeah.
and will start giving you information about those things. I haven't found a use for it in student affairs yet, other than the QR codes. I don't know if anyone has, but it's fun to use.
It's a little freaky to me too, though, because many of you probably have seen the movie Terminator. You know, it's just like one step closer to the machines coming to take over, because it's starting to think. Too
Are
crazy.
there other things in Google that you're all using that we haven't mentioned?
Google Sites.
Yes. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Google Sites is a free and easy way to create a web page. They have templates there. It's very walkthrough kind of creation. I use it for classroom stuff. I use it for family reunions and, just anything and everything.
There's also Google Chat, which is just like any other instant messenger client. Same functionality there.
I use Google Scholar.
How are you using that?
Oh, if I'm looking for articles that maybe our library doesn't have.
It happens.
Yeah.
Google Voice as well.
Yes. Google Voice allows you to have one phone number that can then be ported to other places. So you can give out one number and it can ring to your cell phone, your office. You can get text messages there. Lots of student affairs professionals use that because they have one number that they can give out to students without ever having to really give out their personal number if the university doesn't pay for their cell phone.
Those of you that are using Google Scholar, you know you can set the preferences so that the open URL linking will link to the things that Rice Library has. So you can be searching Google Scholar and use it as a discovery tool into Rice Library.
I didn't know that.
You mean we search our library at the same time? Oh.
Or I've recommended with distance education students that they use it if it's available to search for the university libraries or the public libraries in their geographic area. And it won't allow them to go in and get the stuff, but at least it will let them see what those libraries in their area have that they might be interested in. Whereas if you have it set for USI, it will allow you to go in and get the stuff because you have access to it.